Okay, so after a successful day at work and another successful commute, I'm back home and I've got the Brompton up against the wall here. And what I've done is I've put sticky notes all over the bike so that I can remember all the things to tell you about now that I've had it for about 3 months and I've been using it to commute to work on. There's probably maybe 300 or 400 miles now on the bike, and I did bring it down to the shop where I bought it for a complimentary 100-mile tune-up. And thankfully everything checked out and there was no major adjustments needed. So before I get into the specifics, obviously there's some things that are already different that you can probably tell, like the bag. I made a note to myself of my overall first impressions so that I can give you my TLDR summary and just let you know my sort of umbrella opinion of the bike. So the first thing I wrote down was practical. And that's pretty obvious. I mean, the reason you buy one of these bikes is a lot to do with the practicality of it. I can take it anywhere, and this is all proven to be true. I've gone to many coffee houses, I've gone into the office, obviously, I've taken it into shops, I've gone grocery shopping with it, and I just love it for that. I love how easy it is to just get me around, and as a commuter, you honestly can't get any more practical than this bike. So A+ on practicality, but I mean, that kind of goes without saying, right? I mean, one of the big allures of this bike is that it is so practical. Number 2, which is a little bit short-sighted, but I put reliability. Obviously, I've only had the bike for a few months, but in those 3 months, there has been no issues with the bike whatsoever. It's been running smoothly. The only small issue I had was the little rubber cap on the bottom of the seat post fell off when I was riding over a bump, and I had to just put a little electrical tape on it to keep it up. So that's the only issue. Otherwise, it has been completely reliable. It rides like a dream. So along those lines, I also have a note here about the quality. I really do think you get what you pay for. Obviously, Bromptons are expensive, but the quality is amazing. I just feel like I'm riding a luxury bicycle. You know, it's like when you get into a really fancy car, you just know the difference. I just feel like it is a very high-end machine, and I love that. I love how smooth everything folds and how smooth it rides, and just, I love the feel of it, and it just feels very, very high quality. The next note I have is comfort, which I was a little surprised with. You know, I knew it wouldn't be terrible, but as a foldable commuter bike, I didn't think that it was going to be a super plush ride or anything, and it has been surprisingly comfortable, even the stock seat. So I just wanted to make a note of that. I know a lot of people get like Brooks saddles and things like that, but I've been surprised at the comfort. The only comment I would make as far as comfort is it takes a little while to get used to the smaller wheels. So if you live in a place with a lot of potholes or cracks in your bike paths or just cracks in the road, they feel an order of magnitude bigger than if you go over them on a standard size bike. So just keep that in mind. That's how I lost that rubber cap, because I went over a small crack in the bike path and, you know, the bike just jolted and knocked the rubber cap off. So very comfortable, but be careful of small divots in the road. So the next note that I have here is uniqueness. And what I mean is just that there's no Brompton dealer here in Flagstaff, and I get so many questions about it, so many heads turn, you know, it's just a lot of curiosity about the bike, especially if people catch me folding it or unfolding it. You know, there are other foldable bikes in town, but nothing like this. And it's also bright orange and it's fun, and you know, people are just really curious as to what the heck this is. Just like I was the first time I saw one, I was very curious about it. And the last comment I have is probably the most important, and I just wrote fun, because it is a blast to ride. You know, I love my other bike very much, and I love taking it on long rides. But when I go to commute in the morning on my other bike, you know, I go in the garage and it's like, all right, got to get into work, you know, get my bike out. And it's just kind of like part of the routine. But when I go out in the garage and I see this bike all folded up, I get giddy. I'm like, ooh, I get to unfold it and go for a ride. And it's just, it never gets old. And I love that. I love that it's just always a blast to ride. So that was my last major comment. Now I'll go into some of the specifics and I'll walk through some of these sticky notes on here. So let's start, I guess, in the rear of the bike, and I'll move my way forward. So this sticky note here is just to show you that I did get the Brompton Easy wheels installed, and I did that, I wasn't planning on doing that, but they had them at the shop when I brought it in for my 100-mile service, and I just said, you know what the heck, put them on. And they are a vast improvement. They spin much better, and they make the bike a little taller when it's folded, and it rolls so much better and so much more stable now. So I really do think, even though they're $60 to get the 2 sets, I do think it's worth it. This note is just to tell you that the rack has been working great. I've been carrying some things on the back rack, and I'm really glad that I got it. I know it adds weight to the bike, but for stability, I'm just really, really glad that I got it. Up here, I've got a note for the seat. Just wanted to say that it's really comfortable, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Maybe one day down the line I might get a better seat, but honestly, I'm really happy with the OEM seat. This is to just tell you that I have used the bike pump quite a bit because to go along with this sticky note, the valve stem is actually kind of crammed really tightly in between spokes. And so I found that my foot pump at home won't actually get in there. I can't pump it with my foot pump. So I've just been using the Brompton pump, and it works great. This is just to tell you that, you know, the pedals take a little getting used to. You know, I'm used to clip-ins or little baskets, and so sometimes my feet do slip out of the pedals, but they are perfectly fine. And for what it is, you know, I'm very content with it. This next sticky note I left here because I wanted to talk about the gearing. Now that I've had this bike for 3 months and I came with the minus 12% gearing, I wanted to make a few comments about that because, you know, there's definitely some pros and cons to having that. I live in a place that's moderately hilly, and having that extra granny gear is certainly a plus when I commute into work on that one big hill. But you definitely sacrifice on top end speed. So the top speed on this configuration is maybe 23, maybe 25, and that's spinning out. So if you plan on going any faster than 25, you may want to just get the standard gearing configuration. And the other thing too is, you know, if you live in a place that's relatively flat and you just don't think you're ever going to have to deal with really like massive hills, the standard gearing is probably your best bet. So I definitely like that I have that gear, and when I travel, I never know if I'm going to be in a place that might have a lot of hills. So in that sense, I'm glad I have it. But yeah, you're not going to break any speed records with this configuration. All right, moving on. I've got a note up here because I want to talk about my lighting. So I do have a small cat's eye on the back here for rear visibility. It works fine. It's rechargeable. Up front here, what I've got is I just mounted my little light from my other bike. You know, I know a lot of people put the fancy lights, the little hub mounted lights or whatever, but this works perfectly fine. It's a great light. It served me well for the last 5 years, and it's easy to mount and dismount. So yeah, that's been working great. I have another note up front here to talk about the shifting. So this takes a little getting used to. What I found, it probably took me a good month to really get super fast and good with the shifting. You know, it doesn't necessarily go in order. So if you don't know, the 6-speed isn't 1 through 6. It's 1 through 3, and then each gear has a minus and a plus. And so, you know, you go from 1 minus to 1 plus, and then 2 minus to 2 plus. And to go from, say, 1 plus to 2 minus, you have to shift the one side from 1 to 2 and the other side from plus back to minus. So you kind of have to work both fingers at the same time. And it just takes a little getting used to. If you're a lot's going on, there's a lot of stimulus, you're dealing with traffic, you're dealing with pedestrians, and you got to shift with multiple fingers. You know, it's just multitasking. But you get used to it really quickly. So that was my only comment about that. And lastly, the bag. So I did end up getting this bag. Let me come around front here so I can show you. So what this bag is this is the Brompton C bag, and it's actually discontinued. It's an old bag. When I was at the shop this weekend to get that service, I started looking at the bags thinking I wanted some sort of messenger style bag, but the problem is they were all so expensive, right? The Metro bag or whatever it's called was like $200 and some. So I kind of just, gave up. I was like, I'll just keep using my backpack. But then this one caught my eye because it was just a fun color, and the blue I thought might contrast cool with the orange. And so I picked it up and looked at it, and I was surprised to see it was actually much, much cheaper. So I think I only paid about $100 for this bag, and it's exactly what I wanted. It's the right size, it's the right shape, and I can put my laptop in there, I can put some groceries in there. It's got a couple pouches on the back for extra storage. You can see these little pouches right here on the back. Oh, I did think of one other thing that I could mention, and that's the seat height. So for those of you interested in buying this bike, I have just the standard seat post, and I'm 5'9" with a 31-inch inseam, and I basically ride with the standard seat post almost fully extended. I think I drop it maybe about a centimeter from the top. So if you're 5'10" and with a 32-inch inseam, that's probably the functional limit of the standard seat. So if you're any taller than that, I would probably recommend getting the extended seat or the telescopic seat. That's just my opinion. Otherwise, I don't think you'll be able to get your legs fully extended. So, right, so that's it. I've made it through the entire bike, and it's been really nice thinking about all the joy this bike has brought me in the last few months. So, all right, well, ask any questions, and otherwise take care and be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.